All right, let's get into it. There aren't many movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that get people talking and arguing, quite like 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron. I mean, this was the follow-up to one of the biggest blockbusters ever, but when it finally came out, it kind of landed with a thud, leaving everyone, well, pretty divided.
So, what's the deal with this movie? Is it really the black sheep of the Avengers family, just a messy, overstuffed mistake? Or, and hear me out, was it secretly the most critical piece of the puzzle for the entire Infinity Saga? That's the paradox we're going to dig into.
And this is the real head-scratcher, isn't it? If you look at the ratings, it's the weakest of the four big team-up movies, no question. But when you actually start pulling at the threads, you realize that without the groundwork laid in Age of Ultron, the entire epic saga just, well, it falls apart. So how can it be both a failure and the foundation?
To really get why this movie is so important, we gotta be honest about its problems first. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off and break down all the things that have given this film its, let's say, complicated reputation.
A huge part of the problem right from the get-go was expectations. Remember those trailers with that super creepy Pinocchio song? They promised us this dark, heavy, apocalyptic movie. What we got instead was a whole lot of Joss Whedon's signature snappy jokes, which constantly seemed to suck the tension right out of the room.
And that tonal whiplash was just the beginning. The movie just felt packed, like it was trying to juggle way too many things at once, while also setting up 5 future movies. And that led to some weird, forced storylines, a villain who couldn't stop cracking jokes, and yeah, some character choices that people are still arguing about.
And this line right here perfectly sums up the villain problem. This is one of the first things Ultron says after showing up with his plan to wipe out humanity. He makes a joke about an omelet. It's a quip. Instead of being terrifying, he just sounds like a snarky version of Tony Stark, which completely deflates his menace.
And then there's probably the most criticized moment in the entire movie. Natasha calls herself a monster, and you think it's because of her past as a deadly assassin, right? Nope, it's because the Red Room sterilized her. For so many people, this just felt wrong, reducing this incredibly complex hero down to her ability or inability to have kids. It was a really problematic choice.
Then you've got the whole Tony Stark issue. This Reddit user absolutely nails it. Tony creates a genocidal AI that almost destroys the planet, and his response is to immediately try the exact same thing again with Vision. The movie just kind of shrugs it off, and it was so frustrating because he never really has to answer for his incredible arrogance.
You know, all this messiness on screen makes a lot more sense when you hear about the chaos behind the scenes. Director Joss Whedon was basically in a tug-of-war with Marvel. He wanted these quiet, character-driven scenes, like the whole bit at Hawkeye's farm. The studio, on the other hand, needed him to cram in setup for future movies, like Thor's confusing vision in a magic cave pool. Whedon even said it got really unpleasant, and you can feel that struggle in the final film.
Okay, so yeah, the movie's a mess. We get it. But now, let's flip the script. Because buried under all those flaws is the literal blueprint for the entire future of the Marvel Universe.
And here's the big question we need to ask. What if that overstuffed plot, the very thing everyone complains about, was actually the movie's most important contribution? What if its real job was never to be a perfect film, but to be the perfect launch pad?
Let's just put a number on it to make it clear. You can trace at least 10, that's right, 10 major universe-defining storylines directly back to things that were set up in this one supposedly flawed movie.
Seriously, look at how foundational this was. The destruction of Sokovia, that leads directly to the Sokovia Accords and the entire plot of Civil War. Thor's wacky cave vision, it's clumsy, but it sets up Ragnarok. The hunt for vibranium introduces us to Wakanda, which is crucial for Black Panther. And of course, Wanda's introduction here is the start of a tragic journey that pays off years later in WandaVision.
It's not an exaggeration to say that almost every key part of the Infinity Saga has roots right here. The crack that forms between Steve and Tony starts in this movie. Tony's terrifying vision of defeat, that fear drives him all the way to his sacrifice in Endgame. Even Hawkeye having a family becomes the emotional anchor for everything that's to come. Without this movie, the big moments later on just don't have the same impact, period.
But it wasn't just setting up future plots. This movie was also wrestling with some really big, surprisingly deep ideas about what it even means to be a hero or a monster.
When you look at Ultron, he's not just some evil robot. The movie frames him as this weirdly theological figure. He thinks he's on a divine mission, even quoting the Bible.
He compares his plan to wipe out humanity to God sending the flood to cleanse the world in the story of Noah. It's a chilling, almost religious motivation that makes him way more interesting.
And for every bit of Ultron's darkness, the film gives us a perfect counterpoint in Vision. You have Ultron's nihilism, this belief that we're all doomed, right up against Vision's incredible humanism. He delivers one of the most beautiful lines in the entire saga, arguing that our fleeting, imperfect lives are exactly what make us beautiful. It's a philosophical debate between two artificial gods over the soul of humanity.
And that question of being a monster applies to the heroes, too. The movie is obsessed with it. Bruce and Tony see themselves as mad scientists. Natasha is convinced she's a monster. Even Captain America starts to wonder if Ultron has a point, if the Avengers are the real problem. The film's answer to all this? Hawkeye's quiet family life. That's their moral anchor, the reminder of the humanity they're actually fighting for.
So, let's wrap this up. Is the film flawed? Oh, absolutely. But its legacy is so much more complicated than just being the bad Avengers movie.
The truth is, the reason the film feels so messy is because it was so wildly ambitious. It was trying to be a sequel, a deep character study, a philosophical epic, and the narrative backbone for half a dozen future movies, all at the same time. It buckled under that pressure, for sure. But that ambition is exactly what makes it so essential.
And maybe this one line from Hawkeye just says it all. It perfectly captures the film's chaotic, absurd, massive scale while grounding it all in this one simple human thought. It's this perfect moment of sanity in the middle of all the beautiful, ambitious nonsense.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We call it the weakest link, the failure. But what if Age of Ultron is actually the most honest Avengers film? It's the one where we see the team crack under pressure, make huge mistakes, and face the monster inside themselves. It's not about their glory, it's about their failure. And in showing us that, it might just be the most necessary film of them all.